David Lee Scales, you must be a very strong individual because every week for an hour and a half you carry Chaz on your shoulders through this podcast. He does not prepare for anything. He could not even watch The Ultimate Surfer. You forgot it was on. Why is Chaz on a surf podcast when he has nothing to contribute? For a person who has no real job, what does he do all week long? My God, Chaz. And we thought Scott Bass didn't prep. Chaz just doesn't care. Chaz, get barreled.
If you're going to dish it out, Chaz, you got to be able to take it.
Oh my goodness, it's so true. It is so true. But what I feel I'm trying to do, and I am very thankful to David Lee Scales for carrying the show. I'm trying to be performance art at this point. Is so utterly worthless, so entirely vacuous in my surf life that it becomes performative. Wow. The best possible surfer, I think, is the emptiest surfer. If I can empty myself of everything, then I, in fact, will become the ultimate surfer.
Doesn't the audience get to decide whether or not it's art?
I mean, that's what, nope. I'm going to say that Michelangelo didn't go out and make sculptures and wait for the audience to decide if it was art or not. He knew it was art. Banksy, he's not thinking, I'm going to go doodle something on a wall and maybe, hopefully, somebody will think it's art. No, they know it's art. They are artists, just like me.
But ultimately, those people are hiring Michelangelo to paint the Sistine Chapel, and so I guess even though that listener is complaining, he's still listening. So he is, in fact, paying you to continue to be lazy.
The art, exactly. It's the art of becoming the ultimate surfer.
Well, after I read or listened to that, I saw one of your lines written. I forget which article it was on. Oh, it was about finals day. And your quote in it was, "It takes one day to win over a mentally lazy and challenged surf journalist."
It's true. Took one day.
One day of surfing, and you're just like, I'm back.
I'm in. I'm back. I'm totally in. Loved it. Speaking of, loved every second of it.
A finals day?
Yeah.
Say more.
Are we going to get right into it?
Why not?
Okay. As a mentally lazy, and whatever I wrote, can't even remember what I write. That's
mentally lazy and challenged.
That's how beautiful my art is coming, is I don't remember anything beyond like 3 minutes. I guess not even 3 minutes. You just said that.
Okay. Before we get into the contest, I want to do a deeper dive on your performance art. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I've utilized this strategy too at times. You get away with it 1 week where you freestyle and you vamp because of lack of prep. And it ends up being a good week, whether it's you're writing articles on Beach Grit or maybe contributing to this show. And so then the second week you intend to prep, but you're pressed for time. And then you realize, oh, last week was actually pretty successful. I could just try that again. And then some weeks are hit and miss, but you realize it's just a muscle that you're exercising. And you're like, if I just keep working this muscle, it actually is pretty similar to working the preparation muscle, because that takes energy as well that you get good at or you're bad at times. And so I feel like now you're deep into just that vamping muscle and you're the best at it, or you're, the one who's committed to it the most. And so that's what you're tripling down on.
I mean, the whole thing is nobody wants to hear me prep, I don't think, right? They want like the funny mistakes, that's what is fun to me about it at this point, is just the in the minute riff, talking to you, the in the minute riff while writing, like seeing a headline somewhere and just spitting something out. That's the fun part for me now. And a lot of people, I think when I write books, then that's where I prep. But in the surf journalism stuff, it is, again, how empty of a vessel can I be?
So I think you're onto something, because I think we should never take surfing too seriously. I think that when you take it super seriously and start analyzing, it's obnoxious and it's whiny. And so having just kind of a empty vessel, like you're saying, and letting it flow through you and giving the initial take is actually the most reflective of the act of surfing itself.
I mean, that's what, like, it's what started. I mean, forever I was frustrated about people taking surfing seriously. Like, how can you take this seriously? This is completely ridiculous. I mean, talk about performance art. Like, everyone is partaking in a weird, it's not exercise, it's not a sport. I mean, we've talked about it time and time again on the show. It's a bizarre lifestyle that we're all living. And then it's so absurd. It's an absurdist theater production. And we're all taking it super seriously, which is makes it even more absurd and more funny.
I think don't take it seriously at all. Have fun, and it'll actually allow you to take life less seriously as well, which is
exactly.
How do you feel about his assertion that you don't work and you have nothing to contribute? What do you do all week?
I sit in Zazen and just let the surf information flow through me, emptying myself, letting it flow. And then also homeschooling and writing books and writing curriculum for the homeschool and taking my daughter to be a famous ballerina, taking her on the journey of learning to be a famous ballerina.
Has she seen Black Swan?
She hasn't yet. That one's super creepy. So I'm waiting just a little longer for that one. I don't want to give her nightmares quite yet.
I remember listeners being pissed that you let her watch Cuties on Netflix.
Yeah.
Where's the boundary line? How do you define what's viewable and what isn't?
I would let her watch Black Swan at this point, probably, if she wasn't a ballerina herself. Just, I remember the, like, was it the ripping off toenails and stuff in that movie? There was some like profoundly disturbing things about the art of ballet in that film.
There's like major themes of sexuality and like actual sex in the film too. So
yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
It's a phenomenal film, but I agree with you. I don't know what the right age is, but it's definitely older than she is.
It's not 8. I showed her Swan Lake, though, the whole ballet. We've been watching like full length ballets lately. I think I said that last week maybe. And it's epic. Like, to actually watch full length ballets is pretty great. There's pretty great ones out there.
I've never seen.
Oh yeah. Sit down one day. Instead of like popping something on Netflix, like there's good full-length productions on YouTube, good, from either the American Ballet Company or the Bolshoi, of course, Paris Opera, Royal Ballet. There's a bunch of them.
Okay, instead of the Ultimate Surfer this week.
Yes, do it.
So your screen went away. Okay, there you go. Finals day, you liked it.
Loved every second of it. Bravo, World Surf League.
Yeah, so the World Surf League, for listeners, I'm sure that they're aware, but let's set the topic. Unveiled a brand new format, first time ever, finals day format, 5 men, the top 5 men and the top 5 women competing against each other in a elimination style format. Number 5 surfs against number 4. Whoever wins that heat surfs against number 3. Whoever wins that goes against number 2. And then whoever won that would end up going against number 1, which was Gabriel Medina on the men's side, Chrissa Moore on the women's side in a best of 3 matchup. They had a 2-week waiting period at lowers, and they waited until the swell was, thankfully, 8 feet and just pumping throughout the day. So plenty of opportunities for waves to be ridden. No real lulls in the set in any of the heats. Everybody had plenty of opportunity. I fully agree with you. Like we talked about the limitations of this or the risks of this format, and they would basically be that Chrissa Moore and Gabriel Medina have such a long lead, or such a big lead in terms of points going into this event, that it would be a real shame if they just had an off day and a lesser surfer who really didn't have a mathematical chance of winning a world title then beat them in this one-day format. Thankfully, none of those things happened. And so the format, the way that it played out on this given day I think the format had a lot of value and was actually excellent. I don't think that we necessarily need this format at the end of every year, but I think that this highlighted a great way to build tension throughout the day with everybody collectively following the same storyline. And so the lesson can be learned from this format and applied to other events throughout the year.
So part of the thing I loved about it was the guy girl switching off. Like the heat to heat was fun because like it had a flow that most surf contests don't really. It had a narrative flow, this surf contest.
Exactly.
Every single heat was fun to watch, I could go on and on. Big fat hot juicy beans. I loved everything. I could go on and on about it, but I don't know how this doesn't completely highlight how sort of crap the rest of the tour is, right? Like, why not do basically 1 day or 2 day surf offs, 10 surfers on both sides.
So you're saying this highlights how crap the rest of the tour.
Completely, like how most of those events are slogs through. I mean, nothing against Conor Coffin or Morgan, but getting them out of the way, it was fun for a minute. It was fun, I thought, when Conor surfed beautifully. Morgan did not surf very well. Did you think?
No.
But imagine that those guys were the 4 and 5, and they were in such a different league than Felipe. Idolo was off too, but they were in an entirely different league. It was like they were playing a different sport, right?
Yeah,
I thought. And on regular tour, you have heaps of guys below that are not even half as interesting to watch as either Morgan or Conor. So, like, it's just time. Like, that's what this finals day format proved to me was it is finally time to cut the fat, throw in these head-to-head elimination heats up until the end. The best of 3 worked beautifully, I think. But then invite more exciting surfers on. Like, I would love to see a 1-to-1 man-on-man with, again, I'll keep bringing them up for some reason, but Noah Dean versus, a Felipe in a wave of consequence, right? How fun would that be to actually, Felipe, you got to go now. You can't drop anchor and sit. You actually have to commit to something. I mean, you could do this format any wave around the world and it would be very, very fun, I think.
Yeah. So the takeaways from this event are fewer surfers. So you talked about the disparity between 4 and 5 versus the top 3. We've talked about they need to whittle the tour down from 32 to 15 or whatever. The disparity between 32 and 1 is so vast that they don't deserve to be on the same tour. It's a complete waste. And so this validated that, but on a more micro level, it validated what you just said, is that there's a huge disparity between 5 and 1. And I think that's unique. I think that is unique to this moment in time where Gabriel Medina is that dominant. There's not always a champ that's that dominant. I would argue Chrissa Moore is almost that dominant over everybody else.
Yeah. Chrissa Moore looked like watching Carissa's turns versus, again, Tati Weston Webb is a fantastic surfer, but watching her flow and turns versus Carissa's, I thought Chrissa could have beat Morgan Siblick too.
Yeah. Well, so Chrissa versus Tati, let's do that real quick. Tati has a lot of holes in her game still. She has a lot of strengths, but she still has a lot of holes in her game. And she actually won the first heat of the final series against Chrissa, the best out of 3. And that was a moment where you also realize the flaws of the 30-minute heat format that we've been running all along. And we find ourselves in situations where, Morgan Siblick beats John Florence in Australia this year. And we're going, how does that even happen? It happens because the system is actually flawed. It should never...
Arbitrary 30-minute heat is totally, like, the fact that we consider that, or 35 minutes or whatever it is, the fact that is just law, that is the rule of the land, that's how long surf heats are. Why?
Well, because we had to create look, it's such a nebulous kind of unstructured or subjective thing anyways. We had to create a structure at some point that allows us to run an event in a timely fashion that's fiscally kind of viable. And so these rules happened along the way, and they've only been slightly tweaked and adjusted. we've talked about the need for a radical rethinking of everything, the way that Red Bull can do the Cape Fear event or whatever. And so the WSL, I think, did that with this finals day format. They radically rethought it. And so now we're kind of analyzing the strengths and the weaknesses. But the fact that Taki beat Chrissa in that moment was not reflective of who's the better surfer. It was reflective of whatever, Sure. But so then doing the 3 heats allowed enough kind of a
sample size big enough. I mean, it was a sample size big enough.
Exactly. For kind of the reality to shake out, and Chrissa did what she needed to do. So I think that was a huge strength, but the distance between her and Taki in reality was not reflected in the score line. Like Chrissa is a doubly better surfer than Taki as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, my goodness, and purely based on the sort of, I guess the undefinable, the style element, like watching Chrissa go up and do those arcs. And of course, Taki was on her backside, so it was a bit different most of the time. But still, like Carissa's flow through those turns was so beautiful. Like on those, when she got the big walls just running and would go, those arcing turns were just phenomenally gorgeous to look at. And Taki looked like she was like struggling through it, like trying to go bash the lip or something.
Tati's got a couple of hitches in her get up, like it'll be like, it's not nearly as much flow as Chrissa. It'll be like a crank off the bottom, straight into the top, and then like a crank off the top, and then straight back down and a crank. And it also, she has bobbles in between, like she'll go vert. And actually the one thing that she brought to Chrissa was she was attacking the lip and attacking the wave, where Chrissa, the flows, that the turns that you're talking about weren't necessarily vert and high risk through the lip and drifting. It was always very controlled and like a lean back into the open face, which she's great at, and it gets her big scores. But Chrissa was actually attacking. But what ends up happening, Taki was attacking. But what ends up happening for Taki is that she bobbles. She goes vert and it throws a lot of risk, but then comes out of it almost falling and has to recover. And then when she's recovering, tries to reset a rail, and that like projects her hard up into the next section. So she's kind of always off balance. And phenomenal surfer. She's attacking, and that's all great. And it looks risky, but she can clean all of that stuff up, and she'll be a lot closer to Carissa's kind of level of surfing, or to be honest, Stephanie's level of surfing, and even Sally's level of surfing, and some of these other girls that are in that range. What I was really shocked by, you kind of referenced it with Morgan, was that those bottom 3 surfers on both sides really didn't bring their A game or their championship level game. They showed up and were tentative and like waiting to maybe post a couple of 6s, and then maybe they would try something better. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is your, perhaps for Morgan, for Joanne DeFay, this is your Conor Coffin, your one chance at a world title. And not for a season, but in one day. You can get this done in one day. You better freaking show up and give your best surfing. And Lowers is pumping. Like you're going to get 10 opportunities out there to get your 210s. You better not go for a 6. Go for the 210s. And the fact that they didn't, like that first heat with Joanne DeFay and Stephanie Gilmore was horrendous.
Yeah. I mean, it was a full-on shocker. A full-on shocker. And I was also, to be frank, shocked by Filipe Toledo. I know that he, I guess, could be charitably said, upset Idolo, beat number 2. But his demolishment by the hands of Gabriel Medina was, I thought, he just blew it. Like, was it the first of their 3 best, or their first of their 2 heats? Where he let that wave go, a wave that ran off down the line, had total scoring potential on it, and let it go, even though he had priority. It was the last wave. It was like time ticking down. There was nothing else. Like, what was he thinking? Why would you do that?
Was that the one where Mick and Kelly were both like a minute later, they go, hey, that thing's still running. Hey, you can get 3 more turns on that thing.
Yeah, totally. What was he thinking?
I don't know, but I think that it really highlights the difference between the world champs, like the steely mindset of a world champ versus everybody else. Because even before that, he fell on a couple of waves that he was going to post an 8-point ride on.
Yeah.
He's like, first 2 turns are just incredible, and then the third turn fall. Or the one that he really needed after Gabriel did the Flintstone flip, he blitzed and then failed on a small air reverse, and it became a 7-5 instead of a 9-5. And so those are mistakes that he needs to clean up for sure. And I think it has to do with mindset more than it has to do with actual fatigue.
It's a huge scuffle just weighing on him.
Exactly.
With hot young sponsor junior in the bushes, just shaking his fist.
Exactly. And I mean, I guess we could talk about scoring a little bit there too. It's I think a mistake of the judging that they would deduct points for Felipe not landing that air reverse. Mick and Kelly were both in the booth on that right that Felipe got. I don't know if you remember it, but he absolutely blitzed 3 turns. And you would think if that wave flattened out and he kicked out at that point, that would be a 9-point ride.
Yeah.
But it didn't. The end section was coming at him. And so then he goes into an air reverse and falls on the air reverse, and it becomes a 7-5. So it's kind of like, how is it possible that you garner 9 points already in the bank, fall, and then all of a sudden the judges go, oh, we're going to deduct a 1.5 points out of the 9 because of that.
I gotta say, I sort of like it. I sort of like that you can surf a wave incredibly, but you got to finish it, right? Like, I like the tension at the end for you have to put a stamp on it. And he didn't. And he should have. Like, Filipe Toledo should not be falling on air reverses at lowers.
Yeah, it's shocking that he did. I just think the difference would have been it goes from a 9 to a 9-5 if he stomps that little air reverse.
But I just think that finishing the wave should be weighted heavily, and it is in the current judging, or the way they were judging it.
The problem with that is that it encourages him to just tap the lip to, quote, finish the wave and solidify the score.
I mean, I hear you there. Like, if he would have just surfed it easy. But yeah, I mean, maybe it should have been mid-8, and then with the stomp finish a mid-9 or a low 9.
So I've complained about the WSL creating regressive formats where it does not it's not progressing surfing by running in the wave pool, by running in beach breaks. It's actually not requiring the best out of Gabriel. It's certainly not requiring the best out of Jack Robinson. We should be running in waves of consequence, blah, 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 blah. And the long format, having 2 days of surfing where we only eliminate 4 of the bottom tier surfers is a complete waste of time. But I think that this identified all of that and kind of exemplified all of that in a very, very quick way. And so that first heat with Stephanie Gilmore showing up and not even getting a 10-point heat total, I think holds the mirror to Stephanie's face and says, if you don't absolutely get in the gym tomorrow, hire a personal trainer, hire a sports psychologist, then you actually don't deserve to continue to try to compete with the Chrissas of the world and the people who are doing that, because you should have been so prepped and ready to go on this day. And if you're not, and by the way, I love Steph, so I hate to even be like calling her out like this, but the reality is we're in a different world now. And if you're going to compete with the top players, it's no longer like the format that the WSL has allowed for so long, where you can just be naturally talented and make enough heats, because honestly, nobody's getting very few people are getting a 14-point heat total, and your natural talent will allow you to make enough mistakes that you don't actually lose based on those mistakes. And then when your talent kicks in, you can actually make it to the quarterfinals over and over and over again and be in the top 5. That all needs to go away. Stephanie needs to look in that mirror and be like, my talent is amazing. Now I need to actually do these other things that all of these other elite athletes are doing in order to get to the next level. And I think that's what I saw from her in that first heat. There was no excuse for her to not get a 10-point heat total on finals day at Pumping Lowers.
I mean, especially those waves and the way she surfs, like totally. That was giving, back to art metaphors, that was giving, a fantastic, phenomenal art, like the best paint, the best brushes, the best canvas, and having them turn in some, middling grade school thing.
Which you can only attribute to mental feebleness, you know?
Yeah. I don't know how she didn't. I mean, a Chrissa v. Steph final would have been phenomenal out there.
Steph should have been in the final, no question. And by the way, Joanne DeFay, no offense to her, she shouldn't have been there that day. Like her surfing was nowhere near on the level of any of the other girls. And so for Steph to lose to her was a tragedy, but Steph could have easily smoked Taki and Sally as well. Back on the men's side, though, I really felt like Conor Coffin was the opposite of that. I feel like Conor Coffin leveled up and actually outperformed his own abilities. That was the best surfing that Conor's ever done. And so bravo to him. Build on this. A fifth or a fourth place finish actually is a huge result for him this year. That's already a win. And so learn from that. Now build on that for the next season, because you've proved that you're mentally steely enough to be there.
I mean, Conor was one Filipe Toledo error away from taking him out. Filipe had to get that wave. How many minutes were left? It was like a minute 30 or something, right?
I'm not sure. I forget.
It was very near the end of the heat. And Filipe, of course, stomped a big one and took Conor out. But Conor had Filipe on the ropes that entire heat as well. Yeah, the level, and when I said at the start, the level or the difference between the top guys and, Conor and Morgan is huge. I think it still is. I think the difference between Gabriel Medina and Conor Coffin is massive. But Conor did have a phenomenal surf that day.
Agreed. Yeah, the difference is massive, but there's room for us. There's excitement and entertainment for you and I watching the number 5th surfer in the world as well. Connor's bringing tons of entertainment. We just don't need to see number 32 in the world. Exactly. Connor's earned his spot. Let me see what did you feel about Idolo?
Idolo didn't seem like he was in the game, which I don't know if it has to do with his, it seems like Idolo's relationship status has changed, no?
Has it?
It seems like his...
You talking about like personal relationship?
Yeah, it seems like his girlfriend has disappeared, right?
Who is his... I didn't even know he had a girlfriend.
Remember when he won, it was like he had some super babe girl that was always with him. When he won his last title, she was there and she was like always there. And now you don't see her anymore, at least not on Insta. So I'm wondering if his like things in his personal life are different, where he doesn't quite have the same magic that he had for those couple years where he was like unbeatable, kind of, or felt unbeatable, right? Like just smashing Gabe.
Yeah.
Like Gabe handily, Filipe handily smashed him.
Yeah. So I didn't think about the personal angle, which is probably worth analyzing, but I did think about the difference between Gabriel Medina's steely-minded, world title mindset versus Idolo. And Idolo just didn't bring that. It's like Idolo has all the talent in the world. And again, he showed up on finals day and got a pair of 6s or a 5 and a 6 or whatever it was, which there's no excuse for. And going into the event, I thought that he actually was the steel robot. Like I thought, you see the way that guy's been hitting the gym, all the cross training, all of the free surfing, all that stuff. I guess the one thing that we didn't see from him was showing up at lowers 2 and 3 weeks early. He was the one guy missing from all of those. So maybe he just lost focus.
And also, we've talked on the show about, does having your significant other or being married or being in a long-term relationship help or hinder? And I think we've talked about how it hinders a surfer, right? Like where your mind has to be focused on another person, and like the greats like Kelly Slater get to be great by pure selfish ambition, but look who's in a little loving relationship now that made his whole year, Gabriel Medina.
Yeah,
maybe that's allowed him to maybe not being completely selfishly ambitious gives you a little extra gear going and winning it for the wife.
I think he needed the selfish ambition to win those first two. And we fully knew who that was. And he knew what to expect of that Gabriel, but he needed to find another gear. And so he has definitely found that other gear. He was fully comfortable and self-aware and actualized in that selfish person that he was, and he outgrew it. And he realized it was time to be a different person, or I need different things in my life. I need different levels of fulfillment. And so he shifted into that gear. And I feel like he's fully actualized and self-aware in this new life. And so being your kind of authentic self is where you want to be, wherever that is, you know?
Do you think that anyone after his performance this year and his performance in the finals, is there anyone on tour that's going to challenge Medina for the next couple years?
I think John still can.
You think so? I think John's
yeah.
finished. I think John is done. You heard it here first. I think his professional surf career is over.
Do you think it's because his body won't allow him to compete at that level, or his mindset?
I think both. I think he doesn't. He's won his, how many did he win? Two? He won his 2 titles. He proved himself to be the best surfer in the world. He beat the best. And now he's older. He has different interests. I think he really loves to surf, but I think when he's out there surfing, he only can go 100%. I don't think John safety surfs very often or well. And so he has to just go hug stuff into the flats, right? And, with his busted knee, that's, he's one more knee surgery away from probably truly not competing again.
I think there's room for John still. I think especially as the tour evolves into waves of consequence, once we have G-Land on tour, once we have Sunset back on tour, with Cloudbreak comes back, obviously Chopu, Pipeline, I think those are all venues that John can, Gabriel's amazing at all those spots, maybe other than Sunset, but I think John actually has an edge.
Yeah, I think John at if there was a Back to the Dream Tour, if it was only Dreamy Waves, then where John just has to pull in and get barreled. But I don't see how John beats Gabe over a tour.
I still do. There's something about Gabriel's surfing that is robotic, and he's unbelievably talented. I can't take anything away from him, but a friend of mine was saying that it's like he's like Ivan Drago in Rocky, where he is this machine and had a physical specimen, no flaws mentally. The one catch with any of that stuff in something that is subjective and artistic like surfing is that there's a little bit of a lack of personal flair and charisma and personality. And John has those things in spades, plus the natural ability and talent. So John's one catch is the mental game. And if he can figure out that to the degree that Gabriel does, I think he's a real threat.
I totally agree that, and I think the analogy is apt. And I would love to see, the World Surf League should love to see this too, right? This will be the big, if John can get healthy and actually does want to do it again. John versus Gabe is the sort of Andy Kelly rivalry that surfing has been missing. Like two guys who are distinctly different. And of course, there's I don't think any animosity between John and Gabriel, but represent 2 different styles of surfing, 2 different styles of living, really.
Yeah.
And them going at each other all year would be fun for the surf fan. But the stupid WSL, though, they're going to, how much back patting do you think there was going on in Santa Monica after that day? They fully they deserved it. They knew they ruled. They knew they pulled it off. I'm sure there was much huzzahing and toasting. How did you feel, real quick, about the announcing?
You mean the commentary or the after?
Yeah. No, yeah, the commentary throughout.
I thought I specifically loved Kelly and Mick in the booth.
Yeah. Kelly and Mick in the booth, sort of, to me, no offense, nothing against Cote or the rest of them, but showed that those guys are not only unnecessary, they were just annoying. Especially when it was Mick and Kelly, anybody else talking completely annoyed me. Sal, annoying. Cote annoying, Turpel unnecessary. Like they were all just wasting space. You could pull anyone off the cobbled stone there who could talk surfing like those guys and just have them say one thing. Have them say, you know, whatever, Conor Coffin up and riding. And the judges give it a 6.7. That's all you need that guy to say when you have a Kelly and Mick in the booth.
Yeah, but it's a rarity. We can't afford to, I mean, Kelly and Mick have way bigger things to do and more important things to do. So it's a rarity to get somebody of that stature and many world titles to kind of comment on this.
I think you could find a well-spoken ex-professional surfer every single event.
You
like
could, but not to that level. Those guys are unique.
I mean, they really, I guess so.
Even Lisa Anderson, who has the world titles and the experience, she's not that gifted in terms of the gift of gab, you know what I mean? And the ability to recall and the ability to riff with these guys. So I think Kelly and Mick are unique in that way. They're talented commentators as well as world champs. But what I did love about it, you touched on this as well, was we're all following the same narrative. So normally during an event where there's 18 competitors at the start of the day, I care about certain people, you care about other people, the commentators care about other, and there's just too many storylines to track, and I can't actually invest in all of them. With this, there was very few storylines, and Kelly and Mick were tracking the same ones that you and I were, you know? And so to have those guys representing our thoughts and following our narrative as it gets to this pointy end, I think was where the magic was. It's like, we're all focusing on this coming to the pointy end of the spear. And there was just fewer storylines. We're all in it together. It was this collective thing with very few surfers. That was the highlight of it, I thought.
Again, I don't know how, if you're the World Surf League, you don't look at this and say, okay, we've now restructured the end of the tour. Let's take a hatchet to the rest of the tour. I don't know how you don't do that. I don't know how you don't. You run the stinking QS like the old tour of old, right? Like have that be in a bunch of different places and 32 surfers on that thing, and just however you want to do that, fine. 100, put 1,000 surfers in the QS in one event. I don't care. I'm not going to watch it. Just give me this over and over. Give me this 5 times a year.
Yeah. Well, we were questioning who could beat Gabe. And what we've seen often with this level of sport and athlete is that Gabe might be the ultimate undoing of Gabe. How do you live at that level of intensity and accolade and fanfare and all that without hitting a strip club and doing blow?
I mean, that's the thing though, is like, not that I don't know if he did that pre-marriage, but it seems like he's married to her, right? They're not just dating. Yeah, they got married. Like, it seems like he has set himself up now for a track of knocking off world titles. I'm going to give him 7 by the time this is done. 4 more. He's gonna reel off 5 in a row.
Well, Kelly said he's shocked. I think it was Kelly. Yeah, it was Kelly asking Mick. He's like, he's shocked that Gabriel hasn't gotten more than 2 at this point, and now 3. But I mean, I think his first year on tour was 2014.
Yeah, it's true. No, it's true that Gabriel has not won more titles.
Yeah.
Like, because when Gabriel's on, he truly looks unbeatable, right? And he's on a lot more than he's off. Like, every time he goes into the air, you know he's going to land it. It's anytime he, like, rarely do you think, oh, he blew it. Like, rarely. Filipe, I thought he blew it multiple times that one day.
For sure. Yeah, Filipe has a lot of holes to. I mean, he's an amazing surfer, but it's undeniable he has holes in his game compared to Gabe. And Idolo, really, I mean, he's the one that I was kind of most shocked by. I did not expect such a lackluster performance from Idolo.
Idolo he seemed super scattered. He didn't seem like his head was in that game at all.
Yeah. I'm still going to hold out about Gabriel maybe being his ultimate enemy at some point. The other thing is, you're right. Like, having that loving wife companion cheering you on from the sideline is part of his success this year. But I also wonder how long the wife can play second fiddle. I think, you know, she was a successful, what was she, a supermodel?
Yeah, I think
Or a model? A
Yeah.
model. So she had her own career, her own ambitions, all that sort of stuff. So to sideline that, you know, how long can she sideline that? How long can she be on the road with him? All of that stuff. Relationships are hard, period. Traveling around the world is hard. Traveling with other people is hard. So there's just a lot of kind of variable that it would be hard to sustain for 4 and 5 years at the same kind of level that they're doing it.
Sure is. But if they can find a way, I mean, that's going to be his secret sauce right there. If that thing goes off the rails, then he will not win again. I think that losing Charlie, and I mean, how pissed do you think Charlie is and the family is? Do you think they're like, oh man, we were shown to be basically the lead weight around Gabriel's ankles for these years of not winning? I mean, because that's, you could arguably say, place blame on them. The reason he hasn't won more is because his family, because of Charlie and those guys.
You could. I don't know enough about that story to none of us do know the inner workings of that to really comment on it, but I was almost waiting for him in his post-heat interview and celebration. I think it was with Strider in the water still. He was thanking various people. I was almost waiting for him to thank Charlie, because the media, and ourselves included, have made a lot about that break and that split. And I kind of wanted Gabriel to comment on it and to say, like, because I think he did even say, I've made some big changes in my life and thanks to my wife and that sort of stuff, which were all necessary. But I wanted him to then follow up with, but I'm forever grateful for, you know, the foundation that was built for me and with me.
I think they're really pissed. I think there's like the Brazilian media reported, you know, all kinds of other stuff like that. We had some of it on Beach Crib, but I don't think it is a happy time between those camps.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about the benefits of this format. I think we should go to a listener line call that explains a addition to the format, kind of an adjustment to the format that could become the Beach Grit World Tour.
Let's listen.
Do you want to? This is a listener line call from the 2001 world champion, CJ Hobgood.
Mr. Scales, Mr. Smith, longtime listener, subscriber, but I still only listen to the ad versions. And I'm no expert, but damn, that would make a good shirt or sticker. But really, you guys have been teasing this for a long time, so let's get to it. What do you get when you take Ultimate Surfer, WSL Finals, and Jake Paul's YouTube boxing model? You mix it in a bowl, bake it in the oven on 425 for an hour, and I give you Jamie O'Brien and Ben Gravyy. Think Jake Paul. They first will surf against Ben Askren. Think UFC. Who would that be as a surfer? Maybe Yaden Nickel or Dion Aegis for JOB. Maybe Hank Gaskell for Mr. Gravyy. And who are other surfers that are liking to a Ben Askren? But where will they surf? And who's the Floyd Mayweather or Tyrone Woodley? And will these YouTubers, Gravyy and Mr. JOB, even get out of the first round? And can they draw the numbers they garner? Maybe for the grand finale, JOB versus Dane Reynolds. Ben Gravyy versus Noah Dean. Who's on the women's side? Is it Waco or Western Australia? Can we find the model to get these kids paid? And this is the Beach Grit Tour you guys have been alluding to all this time. Please discuss. Peace.
How about that?
You know, my favorite CJ Hobgood is the Matthew McConaughey CJ Hobgood. He's got such Matthew McConaughey in his delivery. It is so beautiful. Put in the oven.
All right.
425. Yeah. I love Siege. But he's totally right. This is beautiful. I mean, we have been alluding to this. And it's, you know,
sometimes we need somebody else to coalesce all the various ideas we've talked about, you know, like various things one week and then another week, and then he just stitched them all together.
It's so true. And maybe it's time for me to get out of Zazen and not be lazy anymore and actually make this happen.
So
the idea, phone and call Jamie O'Brien and Ben Gravyy first.
Well, you guys sit down with Derek and put together a business model, because this does need to happen. And the fact that we're discussing it publicly means that the WSL or Stab Magazine or somebody might jump on the idea, as they have with a lot of other of our past ideas. So you guys need to sit down today, put together the business model. And the concept that CJ is pitching is YouTubers versus pro surfers in kind of an exhibition format. I think he agreed. We all agree. Actually, he sent this message before Finals Day ran, but the Finals Day format has value. So an elimination format type thing, and you pick YouTubers versus pro surfers. So he offered, on one tier, kind of the A-list tier, Jamie O'Brien, who is a world-class surfer, against, he said, Yaden Nickel, another world-class surfer. I would actually throw that out and say, let's just take Filipe Toledo, like Jamie O'Brien versus CT level surfers, Filipe Toledo. And maybe go.
Who can we get, though? The problem is we're not going to be able to get Felipe because he's bound by contract to the World Surf League, I would imagine. And they would find some way to disallow him to surf in something like this, a competing-esque tour. I mean, we could make it not competing, I suppose,
Exactly.
where it's a one-day exhibition.
Pick apart the contract. Let's look at that contract. What does the WSL actually exclude? And then we'll do something slightly different than that so that he can compete in this.
And at this point, too, I would have Yaden on the YouTuber side, right? Yaden is a YouTuber himself, so put Yaden against somebody, a CT pro.
Right. And so that's the A-list guys that CJ is talking about. But then there's B-list, because Ben Gravyy, he's not a world-class surfer, but he deserves to compete in this because of his YouTube following and what he's built. So then CJ offered Hank Gaskell. And it's like, I think Hank would smoke Ben almost anywhere in the world, maybe other than Tanker Waves or maybe even Jersey. But there are guys, and
who would you want to see go against Ben? What if you threw Ben against a full old man, like Ben against Mark Akalupo?
Aki would smash him, I would think.
Aki today, though? I mean, Aki's old.
Yeah, no. If you watch footage of Aki at like Snapper and stuff currently, Kira, he's amazing.
How funny would it be to keep going up in age until you find a pro surfer old enough that Ben Gravyy can beat him? Like Ian Cairns on a paddleboard. Ben could finally take down a 80-year-old Ian. I mean, what would be, just think the betting line there too. You could start, Ben Gravyy versus the world. This is pretty good too.
Ben Gravyy versus the world.
Where you start Ben surfing against a guy his age, right? A pro, smashed. Then go up 10 years, probably smashed. Up 10 years more. So now we're 30 years older. Or we could go up in increments of 5. That would be pretty fun. And find a pro that age has undone him so much that he can know. Tom Curran could smash Ben Gravyy, yeah.
For sure. Gary Elkerton, Glenn Whitten would smash him. I got one. Martin Potter.
Would you think Potts could smash him, or do you think Gravyy and Potts would be a neck and neck?
I think it might be a close heat. I haven't seen Potter surf a lot recently, but like when he surfed that Heritage Heat against Brad Gerlach, Potts was very off his game.
Gur versus Gravyy would be fun too.
Gur would smash him though, it's like it's not really equal.
But that would be part of the fun, is watching Ben Gravyy get smashed over and over again by older and older men. This
is a phenomenal. CJ's argument, I think, was more about.
CJ's is a different thing.
But this is amazing too.
Yeah,
and it's actually more in line with Ben Gravy's brand.
Yeah, just go. Because he could have fun getting. He would really have to try his hardest, right? Like, Ben Gravyy versus the world. It would be changing locations too, right? Be it a Snapper.
Yeah. It's a world tour.
Yeah.
It's a world tour, and the trophy at the end of the year is a golden pineapple with sunglasses.
Yeah. Oh man,
he's gonna regret all of these years he's put in on soft tops. Like that has hindered his progression. And once he comes up against Stuart Bedford Brown, he's gonna be so bummed.
What is the age? Which surfer and which age are you going to say is Ben Gravy's peak win?
His peak win, like when
Yeah,
he
because
actually
where he gets his win, right? Because of course he could beat Ian Cairns at this point. Let's just be honest. He could beat I don't
PT.
know. And yeah, you think PT would be the peak win, or do you think he could beat PT?
I think he could beat PT. So there's got to be somebody who's a little bit more agile still, who's in their early 60s.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe Shaun Tomson.
You think he can beat Shaun Tomson?
It'd be a close heat.
How hyped would Ben Gravyy be to beat Shaun Tomson too?
That would be the ultimate heat, dude.
Yeah.
Ben Gravyy, Shaun Tomson at
Which way?
Rincon.
At Rincon. Wow. That would be awesome. The best part about this is you wouldn't even need to license, because you wouldn't need to permit the thing. Like, you just have them out there with the crowd.
Yeah.
Like, you could have even fans blocking, like your Ben Gravyy fans and your Shaun Tomson fans blocking waves for both of them, right?
Yeah, this is an incredible concept. If we built through the season and we pinpoint each location to kind of cater to the surfer, but Ben Gravyy going to Snapper and competing against Aki and getting smashed. Like, Ben Gravyy advances no matter whether he wins or loses.
Of course.
The ultimate finale is going to be him and Shaun Tomson at Rincon. That's what we want. It is scripted. You can script this. But like, watching him get smashed by Aki at Snapper, that's and then going to Bells and surfing against Gerlach at Bells and getting smashed again. And then wherever else. I mean, yeah, you would think Rincon for that one, but I've already given it to
maybe Mexico.
Shaun Tomson.
Maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
Cruise. Yeah.
We'll send him down to Mexico and he surfs against Curran. Curran's riding a skimboard, wearing socks on his ears, covered in sunblock.
Yep. It's really good. It's really a great concept. Thanks, CJ. CJ's is a separate concept. We're doing CJ's also. This is a Ben Gravyy versus the World is a spinoff.
Yeah. It's gold though. And so when you're putting this business plan together with Derek, ultimately, I think it needs to be funded by advertisers. And I think part of the pitch is Ben Gravyy streams this live on his YouTube channel. So I don't know how many viewers he has on there, but it's a big audience. And so they're getting all of that. Then I think we package it somehow after the fact, and the advertisers get more play on that package. So get on it.
I'm getting on it. I'm out of Zazen.
And I think that the sales pitch to Ben is, look, we're not going to have a lot of money to give you. Like, we're not going to be able to get a ton of money out of these sponsors. It's more going to be to fund the production, but you are going to get tons of content and airplay out of this. And the pitch to Mark Occhilupo and Gerlach and Potts and all those guys is, here's another boost to your profile and your career. You're going to get full access to Ben Gravy's audience.
Yep. That's pretty great. It's a winners all around.
So CJ, does CJ get to surf? Does CJ get to surf against Ben?
CJ sure does. In Florida?
I think actually this is where we wait for fall in New Jersey when it's pumping and it's hollow. And this is Ben Gravy's home field advantage, but it's really CJ's advantage for getting barrel.
Oh man, I can't wait for the seed sheet. Yeah, you got to help me make the heat list. Okay. I mean the How long do they get? Do they get 2 hours?
Full day.
What's a good sample size? A full day.
Full day. Why not?
They can go in and out of the water as much as they want. Snack on the beach.
Yeah, we're gonna give you from sun up to sundown. Do what you got to do. We'll have filmers and craft services.
Great, perfect, love it. Done.
Yeah. And that'll also encourage fans. Like, fans, come on down and watch this thing,
Sure.
So the actual CJ model, the ultimate matchup, here's people that I think could get in on this in terms of pro surfers. Clay Marzo would be phenomenal to go up against some of the, like a Jamie O'Brien or something. Eric Geiselman is still at the top of his game. Albie Layer, that whole crew is still at the top of their game. I think An unbelievable matchup would be Nathan Florence versus Filipe Toledo.
Ooh, where?
So Nathan Florence being the YouTube sensation versus the CT sensation. If you put it in barreling waves, there's a clear advantage to Nathan Florence. I don't think it needs to be a Chopu maxed out because the advantage is so distinct, but somewhere on the North Shore.
Oh yeah, North Shore would be. I mean, even Pipeline would be super fun.
That would advantage Nathan as well. But what about Big Haleiwa?
Oh yeah, that'd be pretty good. Big Haleiwa would be a good one.
That'd be a really Haleiwa's a rippable wave, so Felipe gets the advantage, but it's a big, meaty, powerful wave, so that advantages Nathan slightly.
What about G-Land?
I'd have to give that to Nathan, I would think.
You think any barrel Nathan gets? I mean, how big of it is a bummer for Filipe Toledo? This would be the fun of this whole series too. How big a bummer for Filipe Toledo? Number 3 or 2, I guess, in the world. Phenomenal. You put him against a YouTuber in any barreling wave, and chances are he could lose.
Well, this is why it's a great opportunity for Felipe to prove us all wrong. I mean, we've been talking a lot of crap, but
Felipe can't prove us wrong because it's true. That's the problem. We tried to do it with Beach Grit. We had a production to get him properly barreled, and we got halfway through it, and he just wouldn't do it.
Are you serious?
You didn't know about this?
I remember the air thing that you guys did with him, but I don't remember the barrel thing.
Yes, we had a whole thing that he had signed on to get him a proper barrel at Chopu. And he went and he got like a small one and got rolled off the reef. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was a 4 Beach Grit. And his filmer just released it. Yeah, his filmer released it and kind of screwed us. And it wasn't even that big a wave. And then he literally it was over. It was done. He wouldn't go get a big barrel.
And the waves were there. There was pumping.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have interview of him sitting talking about how he's not afraid. Like Derek did a long interview with him, like about how he's not afraid, and this whole thing's been built up, and he'll huck himself, but he still never did. So I don't know what to say about it.
I totally forgot about that. I don't know how I forgot about that, but yeah, I do. Well, it's changed. I mean, years have gone by since that. And so this would be an opportunity for him to prove everybody wrong without the constraints of the WSL's format and all that. So that there's an incentive for him to participate.
Yeah, but I honestly don't think he likes big waves. I think, he didn't do the thing that whatever Kelly did or Gabriel did or whoever goes and conquers that, I think, which it could be endearing if Felipe would admit it. If Felipe would say, hey, look I'm going out there as kind of an everyman who doesn't have that push through thing that, world greats have had. I'm going to go win without pushing through my fear. I'm going to go in staying in my comfort zone, more or less, which would be, I think that would be kind of endearing because I'm not about to go paddle maxing Chopu. Sure, I can scream at any one of those guys to do it, but clearly, and if Felipe said, hey, man, I'm like you. I don't want to do it either. I'll do enough, but I'm going to win. I would like Filipe Toledo. Him saying I'm not afraid, to stop saying I'm afraid, and then acting afraid is lame and annoying.
Yeah. While we were talking, I was wondering, you said he's the number 3 surfer in the world. Oh no, he's the number 2. And I had the thought, did they assign points to finals day and then add those to the cumulative total from the season to deem the actual rankings? Or are they just saying now, Felipe is number 2 because he finished second?
Great question. Do you have the WSL.com in front of you?
I pulled it up and it's very vague. It shows the rankings, but only with the point accumulations through the 7th event, which was Mexico. And then above that, up in the header of the page, it shows the results of the WSL finals. So Gabriel first, Felipe second, but it doesn't show any points associated with those. And it doesn't show a ranking with those factored in.
This is a question for Dave Prodan. I'm going to get to the bottom. Wow, today, day of action, of not being lazy. I'm going to text Dave Prodan and ask him what the deal is, because for sure it's one or the other.
How did they not? I mean, first of all, they never stated this in advance. I never even thought to ask it, but how is it not already listed? How do we not have like the top rankings of, this is weird.
It's
Did they not
weird.
think of this?
I'm going to ask, we're going to get to the bottom of this. So what's going to happen?
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's two big blood feuds that happened this weekend surfing, but I'm wondering if we need to save them until next week. Are we running low on time?
I have probably 20 more minutes.
Let's save them then, because there's a couple of other news stories that are more relevant to what we're talking about.
Okay.
Number one is the New York Times article that Gabriel Medina bites the hand that feeds him. Can you explain what happened here?
The World Surf League, Eric Logan and the rest of the brass, I'm sure Jesse Miley Cyrus was there, summoned the top 10 surfers in the world, all 5 on the boys' side and on the girls' side, to the San Clemente Pier to kind of press junket this new finals day format, right? So the New York Times there, I'm sure other reporters were there as well. Not me. It's funny. I got invited by IKEA to go to
By who?
IKEA to go, like,
okay.
Dear Chaz Smith, we would love to have you down at Lower Trestles for finals day. You know, we'll give you your press pass and blah, 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 blah. And I responded, I would love to be there. Yes, please send it. And then I think they realized or did research or asked a question or tried to run it by the WSL, and I was not invited back. That line went dark. So
what was IKEA's involvement?
IKEA and the WSL has some partnership with the WSL to do, I don't know, IKEA had like a tent down there, I think, at Lowers, and they were doing something with the WSL. I think they're doing like a line of furniture with them too. And so I think they found out, they didn't know who I was. They were reaching out, their PR person was reaching out to Surf Media, found Beach Grit. Oh, here's, this is big Surf Media. Let's reach out here. And then went to the WSL afterwards, or went to someone, and it got fully nixed. Oops. Hilarious. Anyway, so I was clearly also not invited to the WSL press junket on the pier, but the New York Times was. New York Times journalist asked Gabriel Medina what he thought of the new format. Clearly, this is a whole time to, spruik this thing. And Gabriel Medina said, I think it's unfair. I don't like it. But what do I know about business? Or something along those lines. Biting Elo's manicured hand right there. Clean Vans, just pouring dirt all over him. The New York Times journalist described Eric Logan as wearing clean Vans, that's it from here on out. It's Eric Clean Vans Logan.
I love the biting the hand that feeds you. Like, we've talked about surf personalities have vacated the space, maybe with Chris Ward, or no, actually Bobby Martinez was probably the last true rebel in that way. And Jeremy Flores has moments where he says what's on his mind, but he would never actually completely disparage the WSL. He always pads it a little bit. I love that Gabriel Medina is becoming the guy who has the personality and saying what's on his mind.
Well, the best thing is Gabriel's platform, Gabriel's brand is way bigger than the WSL's brand. The WSL needs Medina a lot more than Medina needs the WSL. He has however many 9 million Instagram followers to the WSL's whatever million. He's got, money. He's got everything he needs. He doesn't need the WSL. They need him. And so he can go out totally free and say what he wants. They're not going to dock him, or they can do nothing. He is untouchable as far as they're concerned.
I know. And I thought that headline was almost incorrect. He's biting the hand that feeds him. It's like, that hand really doesn't feed him that much.
No.
They give him an opportunity to win a world title, but like you said, it's very reciprocal.
Yeah. I mean, I think more, they need him. So it should have been I don't know why you'd even ask Medina to show up to something like that, knowing if you're them. Like, why not just have a couple represent, like reading Stephanie's glowing, commentary in the New York Times on the new format and all that. Like, clearly she's loves Steph, but she's a company woman, right? She is not going to go say the truth. She is going to go out there and she's going to say, whatever they need to have her say, she's going to say it. And so why not just have Steph and the people who are going to play along, Steph and Conor and whatever.
I wonder if like we talk about maybe Joe Turpel in the booth and Chris Cote are being like positive all the time and not being critical. And then we realize, well, that's sincerely who they are. And so that's why they're playing that role in the booth, is they're sincerely positive and they're seeing the good and they're optimistic, and that's all fine and dandy. I wonder if that also applies to Conor Coffin and Stephanie Gilmore, where they're just, they don't even see the criticism. They just think, hey, I'm grateful for this opportunity to surf on tour wherever they're sending us. That's where I'm happy to go. And so I'm only going to speak glowingly, because for a long time, I thought that it was that they're holding back. They're intentionally not, they're trying not to be critical because they want to be polite to their employer. And I'm thinking now that it isn't so much that. I'm thinking that there are people who are just not particularly critical.
Sure. They don't think negatively. Yeah, they're happy to do it. Happy to do it.
Because we get feedback. I'll get feedback from listeners who are like, you guys complain for no purpose. And it's, or whatever, they'll complain about us criticizing the WSL. And my response to that is, it's not just we take what they feed us or we have nothing to eat at all. There's an alternative way to do what they're doing that would actually be more entertaining and bring them more viewership and bring them more sponsor dollars and bring them more of everything. So they're doing a mediocre job at this. They could just do a better job by running in waves of consequence or whatever it is, the things that we've actually complained about. But it's okay to be critical is my point. Like Gabriel Medina saying what he said was not some outlandish criticism. It was a very, very justifiable criticism. And it wasn't even attacking. It was just, hey, I've garnered 12,000 or whatever it was, maybe 20,000 more points.
16,000.
16. Okay. 16,000 more points over number 2. They could win this event and get 10,000 points and they would still be in second. So it's stupid that I would lose. That's a justifiable complaint.
Completely. And I mean, again, WSL back patting itself, all that, deservedly so, phenomenal day, et cetera, et cetera. One tweaked ankle. Gabriel could have gone up for one of those airs, come down, tweaked it, been unable to surf. Filipe Toledo would have been the champion, the least deserving champion that professional surfing ever did have. A guy who, I mean, and especially through, if Filipe would have blown up at Trestles, then I would have said, okay, got demolished by Gabe, almost lost to Conor, and beat a very, very shaky Idolo. That was it. And then he would have been our champion.
Yeah.
Disaster.
Well, congrats to the WSL for pulling off this kind of questionably conceived concept. They nailed it. We eat crow. They deserved it. It was a phenomenal day of surfing. I was thoroughly entertained, as were you.
Loved it.
So yeah, congrats on that.
I had it on all day, which I haven't had a surf contest on all day since, I mean, pipe, usually I'll let it run in the background, but I'll swing out for hours at a time when people are coming up that I don't care about. But I had it on all day and was engaged all day. So yeah, bravo WSL.
I have more to say on that, but before we do, and before we go to Barrel or Not, let's go to a commercial break real quick, Chaz.
Let's do it.
All right, we are back from commercial.
Sweet.
I want to ask you 2 things: whether or not you've watched the Val documentary yet, and also about the new Cocaine Cowboy.
I have not watched the Val yet. I need to. There's been a backlog of things to catch up on at home. So no, not yet on the Val, but it's still coming. And are you talking about Elo's new Cocaine Cowboy look?
That is precisely what I'm talking about.
Wow. A butterfly from the Oprah's cocoon is what we saw on finals day. He looked so Miami cocaine-y that I had to do like 10 double takes.
So now, is this a compliment or are you insulting it?
Compliment? Like that.
I think he looks fantastic.
He looked great. He looked way better. He looked so smooth. He looked like, straight out of a 1980s sitcom. I mean, Miami Vice style, about the cocaine trade. He looked so sharp as a tack.
Would a Cocaine Cowboy be wearing fresh to death Vans?
I think today they would be. Once they saw Eric Logan pull it off with such aplomb, then they would.
So Eric Logan looked like a salt and pepper, slight 5 o'clock shadow. hip shades, fit, svelte, like a comparison to I don't know. It looked like a Lothario, like an Italian or Spanish Lothario who like just got off his boat, his speedboat that he parked, at the restaurant.
I don't want to hear that Eric Logan is having an affair in multiple months, because that's the look. I mean, it looked like somebody who is having an affair or breaking up with the wife and on the market and just looking like $1 million.
He's looking good.
There was no reason for him to put that much time into his physical appearance, unless, damn it, Eric, don't be having an affair. Go back to your wife.
Well, first of all, he always puts that much time into his appearance. It's just usually flashy pink, sports coats and that sort of thing. His appearance has changed. His aesthetic has changed completely. It's much more casual now. He's replaced the loafers with the Vans. When
you see someone change aesthetic radically, I'm going to say, usually there's a woman behind that. There was
maybe it's his wife. Maybe his wife is like, hey, those pink blazers, we're done with those. Let's tone it down a bit.
His wife liked that. That's how he won his wife. She liked that look. I hate to say that Eric Logan is having an affair here on the podcast, but I'm going to have to think that Eric Logan is having an affair.
I do not think that. I think Eric, for a long time, he's been a runner. I think he's been running 5 miles a day. He's looking fit. He's feeling fit. And for whatever reason, the radical change of the WSL, they're going to do a radical new format, and he's reborn in that.
Younger woman, Eric,
nope.
Your gaudy stuff is not what I like. I want you to look sort of like the guys at work that I work with. So They wear these white polos and slacks, and they wear Vans, Eric. Let's go shopping. Younger woman. So sad. I didn't want this season to end this way. It makes me sad, frankly.
Well, it hasn't. And it's a good look. It's a good look no matter what. Eric's rocking it. Okay, barrel or nah? Watching a surf comp during super important life events. Now, this is a very specific barrel or nah, but I find it relates to, I've been watching the comp when I'm driving. I've been watching the comp while I'm at work at times, but I found myself in a situation on finals day. We had our birthing coach scheduled to arrive. And this is, sorry, somebody just started gardening. Or running a lawnmower. So it was a nightmare. So used to be that you go to like birthing classes at a hospital. Now, because of COVID, you have to schedule it for in-home. So we had our birthing coach scheduled to come this week. And it happened to be on finals day. I was hoping they'd run the event on Monday, no big deal, but they ended up running the event on Tuesday. And I'm like, can we reschedule this? No, we cannot reschedule it. David, shut up. Surfing is not that important. You don't need to watch this event. So for 3 hours, we have this woman holding a fake pelvis, trying to jam a fake baby's head through it with a diagram showing us how this all works. And I've
multiple heats.
Yeah, I've secretly got my phone propped up next to me on the couch, shielding it so that Lauren knew exactly what I was doing, but I didn't want the birthing coach to be like, who is this absentee father? He's not going to be there in the child's life. He can't even be here for this 3-hour interview. Like, how important does this guy think that he is? Is he a CEO running a company? No. He's just a surf junkie who's got an addiction that he's trying to fix right now. So was I right? Was I wrong? Barrel or no?
Barrel, huge barrel. And I feel that the category of people who watch professional surf contests during important events, that's like the chorus of the core surf fan. Like those are the people that I want to get together with and, share a drink, because I bet how many of those, like on finals day, we had the Facebook stream up on Beach Grid, and I think it would climb into like kind of the 5s, 6s, sometimes 1,000 watching. And I'm sure there was, who knows how many more. Let's be super charitable and say, I want to say that 50,000 people were watching finals day.
I have no clue.
I have no clue either. Let's say 50,000 people watching. I bet of those, 100 around the world, 200 are people who watch surfing during important events. 300. How many do you think? 500?
I think I was the only one in a birthing coach seminar.
For sure, but there was for sure somebody else who you were.
Yeah,
there was somebody else somewhere around the world doing in somewhere important that they needed to be fully engaged and were watching surfing. And so you and that guy are bros, right? You
Definitely.
are Eskimo buddies in the watching surfing when you're supposed to be doing something.
He was in an actual labor with his wife. And thankfully his job was to push from behind her shoulder so she couldn't see that his phone was actually in between her shoulder and him.
Yeah, huge barrel.
I thought so too. And let's be honest, a lot of what that birthing coach was saying was kind of common sense. I could look it up on YouTube if I need to. What I can't live in is the live stream. I can't kind of create the live stream.
Nope.
So what my thankfully she got there and she goes, "Oh, I have one booklet for you guys to take notes on." And I was like, "Oh, Lauren, you take that. I'm going to make notes on my phone."
Oh yeah.
So I had an excuse to have my phone in my hand and I'm pretending to type into it, but I'm really just hitting the refresh, like the live stream refresh.
What heats were they?
I watched the first women's event, the first women's heat and the first men's heat. And then it was like the next sequence of 2 through 3 or 4.
Okay. Fantastic. Good job.
So I got to watch all the finals, but I missed Idolo and Felipe in live time.
Yeah.
That was a big one.
Didn't miss much though.
But yeah, within a 3 to 5 minute window, I could click my phone open and refresh it real quick and just see at least the scores. Even if I couldn't see a wave being surfed, I'd see the scores. And I was like, oh my God, Idolo's down, but he's got 7 minutes left. Okay, I'll look back in 5 minutes and see what happens.
So much fun.
It was stressful.
Yeah.
And then as that meeting's winding down, I'm just like, okay, can I get you anything else? You need to use the restroom before you go, trying to usher her out as quickly as possible.
Great meeting you. Yeah, good job.
I have a feeling she thinks I'm gonna be an awful father though.
That's okay. Let her think that.
I think so too. Barrel or nah, talking to your neighbors.
Oh, solid one. Okay, so growing up, my folks, and I don't know why they did this. I think my dad in particular disliked talking to the neighbors so much that would purposefully make enemies out of the neighbors, like do things to aggravate and annoy the neighbors. And so growing up, I guess there was an old lady who lived next to us and we were cool with her, but generally this really feels like, and I don't know again that they would consider it this way, but I remember they moved. I wasn't living with them at the time, but they lived in Paso Robles and had such beef with the neighbors that the kid would throw nails into their pool, like things like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so like real neighborhood war. Then I've in my life have been both friends and not with neighbors, like screaming over the fence. I'm going to say no barrel on friends with neighbors. I'm going to say the enemy life is a better life.
So I think there's middle ground there, right? Like you don't have to be enemies or having dinner parties together, but the conundrum for me is in the middle. It's when I'm leaving and I see a neighbor's leaving at the same time. My impulse is to wait 5 minutes until they're gone because I don't want to have that middle of the road interaction where if I could just give them a wave, I'm perfectly happy with that. But sometimes they want to talk and they're just like, oh, hey, how are you? And it's all small, superficial talk. That's the worst talk in the world,
Across the street, my neighbors here in Cardiff, I've been here 11 years now, have not said one word to them for 11 years. 11 years, not one word to the husband or the wife or their 2 kids.
I'm okay with that.
0. Yeah, it's great. I park in front of their house. They don't say, hey, move your car. Nothing. Not one word. 0. It's great.
I'm kind of okay with that. Yeah. I almost prefer that to the casual wave because I think there's an implicit, maybe I'm wrong in this, but I think there's an implicit understanding that I see you guys, I'm protecting you. If there's somebody breaking in, I'm aware of those things. I'm surveying everything. But we don't need to go through the fake rigmarole, superficial conversation every time we see one another.
No.
Because ultimately, if you add up those minutes over the course of 11 years, you've wasted 3 hours of your life. So let's not waste that. But we're on the same team here. We just don't need to do this superficial nonsense.
And once you become a father, I'm sure you're going to take a lot of walks around your neighborhood. I'm all totally down with friends in the neighborhood, right? Like I have friends in my neighborhood. Most of them, I think, were made when I walked Hemi around when she was, I'd always walk her to sleep. And so, and I love walking by their house to this day and chatting with them. But yeah, if there's no proximity, does not necessitate friendliness.
Agreed. The other risk that you really run into is if you go full friends, let's say you're now doing dinner parties together, all that sort of stuff. What if you guys have a difference of opinion or a falling out?
Political falling out.
Totally.
Now it's cold and awkward.
Now you have an actual neighbor, a physical house. We don't want to move because of this political falling out, but I'm forced to see these people all the time now. Bad news. It's like dating a coworker that you break up with, and then you're stuck seeing that person, Your best
case scenario for the listener, just make enemies with all 3 houses or 4 houses around you directly. Like, I scream at my backyard neighbor, like cuss words. I curse him.
Because what?
He's like a hobbyist or something. I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he has a home business back there that's illegal, because he like nonstop all day running an electric saw. And so I would curse him and he wouldn't stop. I would curse him. And then I marched over there one day, realized he had one leg, but kept cursing him, really like in his face cursing. And I can't remember what I said. Like, I asked to go back and see what is so important that you have to electric saw it all day. And he wouldn't let me back there. And then I said, "You're doing something sketchy back there. I'm on to you now, buddy." And then he kind of stopped doing it. So I think being on to his sketchy sawing was something.
Is the electric saw related to his lack of a leg?
Maybe.
Huh.
Could have cut his leg off, and he was just cutting into little pieces every day.
I'm glad that you didn't stop the barrage once you saw that he had one leg, because that would then be prejudice.
Yeah, that would be. Prejudice. I wasn't prejudiced. I let him have it even more.
Good. All right, good. I'm glad we're on the same page. Talking to your neighbors, no barrel.
Yeah,
no barrel. Keep that conversation yourself. Final, barrel or not? The open-handed slap. So it's an open-handed almost punch. So you've been the recipient of this from Ashton Goggins. We have video to show it. I'll post it on today's episode again.
Right.
But this is in relation to the recent German surfboard thieves in Portugal who got caught stealing boards from 3 different retailers. And the local went up and gave them a big open hand slap across the face as opposed to a punch.
I've written about this in the best-selling book, Welcome to Paradise, Now Go to Hell. I learned from Edward Rothman himself that the slap is the ultimate move because it's so demeaning. You actually demean the person that you are slapping by slapping them. So not only are you causing them physical pain, you are demeaning them. They don't even deserve a punch. They're like, you're a little kid who gets a slap. Yeah. So big barrel.
Okay. Would you rather have seen those surfboard thieves get punched?
Nope, because I know Eddie, and I know that not only did they feel pain, they got demeaned. They got slapped like little sissies.
I feel like there's a place for the open-handed slap, but there's also a place for the punch. So what Eddie is saying is relevant because you're going to demean this person and threaten them essentially to fight back, at which point you'll beat their ass. But so it's kind of like, boom, I dare you to do something. And that person is forced to basically cower and accept the demeaning. But in this particular case with these surfboard thefts, they deserve to have a broken jaw and to be unconscious and have to wake up and reckon with that punishment, you know?
It's true, but now video of their slapping. is across the internet.
Yeah. I wanted to
Barrel.
see more. I wanted to see
Yeah.
more. After that slap, the guy falls back and they go off camera. And it's like the cameraman knew here comes a legitimate beating. And I don't want to have it on film because we'll be held liable for that.
Yeah.
But
Like a slap.
all right, good. Slapping, open-ended slap is barrel, I suppose.
Barrel.
All right, Chaz, I think we owe a thank you to Clifton James for his excellent submission.
Oh my goodness. All right. Still my favorite world champion of all time. Even after this new one.
Clifton James McConaughey.
Clifton James. All right. You put it in the oven, bake it 425. Take it out when it's nice and crispy. That's an idea.
That's a low country surf format recipe.
Yep.
Are we ever going to end up back at Album Surfboards again?
Yes. Hopefully next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Excited
right.
to go back there.
Shout out to Album. Shout out to our longtime sponsor now, athleticgreens.com/surf. Even though we didn't give them love today, give them a quick little shout out.
Love them every day.
All right, Chaz, enjoy homeschooling for the rest of the day. And until next week.
Yeah, barrel.